What is going on, college basketball fans? Today we have our first official full bracket predictions for the 2024 college basketball season. That's right, college basketball is back, and Joe Lunardi is already making bracketologies here in the middle of November. So we are going to take Joe Lunardi's bracketology that he has for us here, put it into our own PDF where we fill it out from the first round to the national championship, game by game. Every game gets predicted until we predict our way too early national champion for 2024 March Madness. Let me know down below in the comment section who is your final four at this point. Let me know based on this bracket who would be in your final four. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking just this early into the season. We're going to have a ton more college basketball content coming. College basketball is my favorite sport. College basketball is the main sport I do content here on YouTube for. So we're gonna have a lot. We're gonna have the Thanksgiving week. There's a ton of tournaments. We're going to have predictions for all those tournaments. We're going to have our power rankings start back up this Monday, and that's going to be out every Monday. And we're going to do updated versions of these every once in a while as well. And as we get really close to March, we're going to be having these out weekly. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you guys are college basketball fans. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy. And again, let me know what your guys' final four is at this point, way too early. So let's get into it. I'm ready to get it started. So there are some question marks I have with Joe Lunardi's bracketology, and soon I think it's too early for me to make my own bracketology, but soon I will make my own bracketology here in probably a couple of weeks. I would not have Purdue as my number one overall seed. There are a few teams that he doesn't have in his March Madness that I believe are for sure I'm going to make March Madness this year. So yeah, we'll give it a couple more weeks into the season so we can kind of get the feel of things, and I will come out with my first bracketology. But because I do have a lot of disagreements here with Joe Lunardi's, but based on his, he's usually pretty accurate. You know, it's not horrible. It's a good base for us to at least do our way too early predictions. So Purdue versus either Texas Southern or Sacred Heart. Now, I will say I'll probably give the edge to Texas Southern in that matchup over Sacred Heart, but I think Purdue is going to win this game. I mean, Purdue is returning everybody. They seem to be better than ever. They have so much size between Zach Edey, Caleb Furst, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and even Marcus Gillis, who can get down low a little bit. It's just their shooting that could eventually, get them caught. How it did last year against FDU. So I think that they will be able to get it done here in the first round for sure against those two teams. Mississippi State versus Virginia. This is a awesome 8-9 matchup. I would love to see it. Chris Jans back in the tournament, but not with New Mexico State, with Mississippi State. And I would love to see this Chris Jans team make the tournament this year. I think they will. And going up against Virginia, who's definitely going to have a lot of pressure on them, even though they are kind of in a rebuilding period. They still got Reese Beekman. They still got Isaac McNeely, who I really like because as a West Virginia fan and native West Virginia, Isaac McNeely was a 4-star out of the state of West Virginia when he was in high school and was the top player in our state for that year. I root for him to do pretty good, so I love West Virginia people. I'm going to root for them just the way I am, and I think Virginia's going to get it done. A lot of pressure on them because they've been upset in the first round a couple of times, and including last year to Furman. So I think Virginia needs this win, and I think it would still be good for Chris Jans to get this Mississippi State team, who's not really a basketball school, to the NCAA tournament and play a close one against Virginia. Next up, we got Texas versus Drake, and I absolutely hate this matchup for Drake because I think Drake has a really good team who's built for a spot like the 12th seed and is built to upset somebody. But I really like this Texas team. I think that as a 5 seed, that's too low of a seed for Texas. I think they're going to be a higher seed when it gets down to March, and I am going to have Texas win that game. I just really like, again, the size factor in this one. Caden Shedrick, also Dylan Dessou, who was going off last year during March Madness. I feel like he could do the same this year. And then they got really good guards who have NCAA tournament experience. Tyrese Hunter, whenever he was at Iowa State, not last year, but the year before, he took over in March Madness. Max Asmus, whenever he was at Oral Roberts, he can take over in March Madness. Like, they have guards who can take over along with really good bigs. And Dylan Dessou, who also has proven that can take over games. If they can get Dylan Mitchell, who's in his sophomore season, to really light it up, I think that this Texas team is going to be one of the most underrated teams this year. I feel like they are right now. I feel like 5 seed for them is being underrated. Next up, we got Alabama versus James Madison, and James Madison, they're coming up, early in the season, they got a big win over Michigan State on the road. That's such a huge win. If they are to get to this point, they could very well pull off an upset. But again, I just really like Alabama's team this year, man. They got Grant Nelson. They got a lot of really good transfers. I really like this Alabama team. They've been playing really well early in this season so far. And I think even though they lost a lot of talent, Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, I still really like this Bama team, and I don't think they got too much worse. I think Alabama is going to get by James Madison here. Miami versus Michigan. Michigan just played amazing against St. John's, but I think Miami is a much better team than St. John's, and I think Miami is still built to go far here this year. I really like what they have, even though they are losing Isaiah Wong, Jordan Miller. They still have, Nigel Pack, of course, Norchad Omier. They brought in Matt Cleveland. They have some really good, talented players on this team. Poplar, just really good players, and I think Miami is still right now the best team in the ACC. I'd still have them above Duke, and I think Miami is going to win this game here over Michigan. Next up, we got Baylor versus UC Irvine. UC Irvine, and this happened after this bracketology was made, so credit to Joe Lunardi. UC Irvine just upset USC last night, as I am recording this video on Wednesday night. So UC Irvine, look out for them. I feel like they are always pulling off upsets in the regular season, and if they can get to March Madness, they can pull off upsets. We've seen them do it against Kansas State, I think, 2 different times in recent memory, so they definitely can pull off some upsets. I do really like this Baylor team. I like their guards. Jacoby Walter is a absolute stud freshman player. I mean, we thought they were losing their star freshman Keontae George, which they did. They just got another stud freshman guard on their roster as well. I just worry. I don't know if Baylor has the bigs, and also, I don't know. I don't think this Baylor team is the best. I have yet to pick an upset yet. I am going to pick an upset here. I'm going to go with UC Irvine over Baylor, and I know Baylor fans are going to be mad. People are going to be like, there's no way that's going to happen. Well, upsets happen every year, and I am going to pick upsets in my bracketology predictions. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys might not realize this, but for my subscribers, they know I am going to pick upsets. I'm not just going to chalk all these predictions, especially with my way too early ones. We got to have some fun with it, because, of course, the actual bracket is going to look way different in March anyway. Memphis versus Northwestern. This is a very fun 7-10 matchup. This 7-10 matchup right here would feed some families. Memphis is an excellent team. They were super underrated during the preseason. They look awesome right now. And Northwestern, I feel like, is a very underrated team as well. They're bringing back Boo Buie. They got a really solid squad. I would love to see this matchup, and I'm going to go with Memphis to win it, but I think it would be fantastic back and forth. I mean, we look at the first round of last year, FAU versus Memphis was absolutely amazing, and then FAU went on to go to the Final Four after that awesome close matchup in the first round. Memphis Northwestern would 100% deliver here in the first round. Marquette versus Wright State. I really like Marquette. I liked them last year. They didn't go as far as I thought they would, but I love this lineup. Iggy, Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones, Stevie. They have some really solid players here on this team, and I really do like Marquette, and they have some experience now. I think Tyler Kolek is one of the best guards in the league, and give me Marquette here to move on. So let's go ahead and finish out this region, and we'll go region by region just because I feel like I like to do that more. We get Purdue versus Virginia, which is really fun. I mean, immediately makes me think of 2019 Purdue versus Virginia in the Elite Eight whenever Carson Edwards was going crazy and Virginia narrowly escaped, and then they went on to win the national championship. You know, could Virginia give them some problems? I don't think Virginia has the size. I don't think Virginia has the size to compete with Zach Edey, Trey Kaufman-Wren, Caleb Furst. They have too much size, and if Purdue's knocking down their shots, this should be a pretty easy win for them. I mean, Virginia is going to game plan well for them. They're going to play good defense because we all know they do play good defense. But I am going to say Purdue does get the job done. Then we got Texas versus Alabama. This is an amazing second-round matchup. 4 versus 5, Texas, Alabama. Both these teams are very solid, but again, I feel like Texas just is the better team here, and I think they're very underrated for a 5 seed. I'm going to take Texas here to get the job done. Then we got Miami versus UC Irvine. Can UC Irvine upset Miami, who in the past 2 years have made the Elite Eight and the Final Four back-to-back years? Can they get to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd year in a row? I don't think UC Irvine's going to get it done. I think Miami, too experienced. We seen Norchad Omier just absolutely take over in March last year. He's back. He's going to do it again. He's going to dominate UC Irvine. Give me Miami in this one. Memphis versus Marquette. This bracket's turning out to be really fun. It really is, because I would like to see Marquette go far, but Memphis is one of those sneaky teams that as a 7 seed could sneak its way into going pretty deep. So I really don't know who I want to pick in this one. I do want to pick some upsets, and I think Memphis over Marquette is definitely possible. I'm going to hold off on pulling this trigger. I'm going to say that Marquette does make it into the next round, and they don't get beat in the second round for the second year in a row with this team. I think Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones, these very good guards here for the Golden Eagles. Stevie Mitchell is going to get better over the course of the season as well. I like Marquette here in this matchup. Next up, we got Purdue versus Texas. Now, unlike the first 2 matchups for Purdue, I do believe that Texas does have the size to match up with them, with Dylan Dessou, with Dylan Mitchell, who's a really good rebounding wing, and with Caden Shedrick, who is going to be playing hard defense. And Texas also does have some really good shooting and some guys who can take over games with Max Asmus and also Tyrese Hunter. I would actually give the edge to Texas when it comes to guard play. I know Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith are improving and could be better than last year, and maybe won't, choke like they did last year in March Madness, but I am going to go with Texas here to upset Joe Lunardi's top overall seed here in the Sweet 16 and make back-to-back Elite Eights under their first 2 years under now full-time head coach, not interim, head coach Rodney Terry. Next up, we got Miami versus Marquette, and again, this would be an amazing matchup. And I like Marquette in this matchup. I like Marquette. I think that Miami does, to me, have the advantage when it comes to big men play with Norchad Omier, but I think Iggy can hold his own down there. And I also really like Marquette's guard play. I know that Miami has Poplar and they have Nigel Pack, but I really like Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones, Stevie Mitchell. I think these guards are going to be able to do enough and outplay Miami enough to be able to move on to the Elite Eight. Let's not forget Marquette was Big East champions last year. They beat UConn every time they played them. Like, this Marquette team is very good, and they just got upset by a very good Michigan State team last year, and I think that they're built to go far this season. I'm going to have them in the Elite Eight versus Texas. So we got our 2 seed and we got our 5 seed. Winner goes to the Final Four, and man, this one, very 50-50 matchup for me at this point from what I've seen. I'm going to go with Texas, though, to get it done and make it to the Final Four. Shaka Smart, I just thought about that. A good storyline getting set up here in the Elite Eight. Shaka Smart coaching against his former team that he coached for in Texas, going up against Rodney Terry. Max Asmus versus Tyler Kolek. You got Tyrese Hunter versus Cam Jones. Dylan Dessou versus Iggy. You got some really fun matchups here. I think the difference here is going to be the X Factor players. Is it going to be Dylan Mitchell on Texas, or is it going to be Stevie Mitchell on Marquette? That could be the difference in this game because I feel like the stars are going to show up. Give me Texas here to get it done. I really like the sophomore Dylan Mitchell. He's very athletic. I think that he can play a huge role, step up, and get the job done here for his squad. Next up, we got Arizona versus McNeese State. Arizona has maybe the biggest win of the season so far against Duke on the road in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and they got a 1 seed right now, and I'm going to pick them over McNeese State pretty easily. St. Mary's versus Iowa State. I'm normally a big fan of St. Mary's here in this situation in an 8-9 matchup. Just the way they're coached, the way they play. They have a really solid player this year in Aiden Mahaney, who is only a sophomore. He's going to be awesome. But I like Iowa State's squad this year. I think they're a little bit underrated, and I think by the end of the season they could get higher than a 9 seed. So I'm going to go with Iowa State here in this matchup to get the job done. They're just a well-coached team. Give me the Cyclones here in this one. Arkansas versus Dayton. I'm going to go with Arkansas. You guys know I am very high on Arkansas. For them to be a 5 seed is just ridiculous to me. I'm very high on Arkansas. Nobody else seems to be for some reason. I feel like with all the transfers that they got this season, with the players that they have returning, I think that this might be Arkansas's best team that they have had under Coach Muss. So I really like this Arkansas team. I don't know why Joe Lunardi's low on them, why the AP poll doesn't have them top 10. I couldn't tell you. I'm just higher on them than most people. Give me Arkansas over Dayton. Next up, we got Michigan State versus Charleston. Charleston, they were unable to get, after an amazing regular season last year, unable to get a win in March Madness last season, even though they played very close. 13 seed now going up against Michigan State. I feel like Michigan State is going to figure things out. They lost early to James Madison. They lost to Duke last night, as I am recording this video on Wednesday. Tuesday night they lost to Duke, but they didn't look horrible. They played very good defense in the first half. They started to make their three-pointers. I think by this point, if Michigan State can start making their three-pointers, they're going to be very dangerous. They're going to be back up to that national championship level that we expected them to be at. You can't really trust a team to get upset when they're coached by Tom Izzo in March, so give me Michigan State here in the first round. Villanova versus Yale. I don't really like that Yale is going to be there. I like 2 teams better than Yale in the Ivy League, and that being Princeton and Penn. And Penn just actually beat Villanova. Not really huge on Villanova this year, but I think Yale can get it done. We just saw that Villanova lost to an Ivy League team already this season, so I'm going to go with Yale as an 11 seed, even though they're not my favorites to come out of the Ivy League this year. I'm going to pick Yale to get it done. Gonzaga versus Vermont. I'm going to take Gonzaga in this one. The Catamounts, very well-coached team. They make March Madness very consistently, but I love this Gonzaga team this year. Ryan Nembhard as the point guard. I feel like they didn't really have a true point guard last year. Now they got one, and they got some really good bigs to play alongside them as well with Anton Watson and company down there. Gonzaga is going to be a force once again. UCLA versus Maryland. I'm not big on Maryland this year. I'm going to take UCLA for sure. Next up, we got Houston versus Weber State. You guys know I'm really high on Houston. I think in my official March Madness predictions last year, I had Houston as my national champion. One of my brackets, I did have UConn, but that broke my 2-year streak. Prior, I had Kansas and Baylor. I was correct in my official final March Madness predictions. Last year, I had Houston, so that actually broke my streak. And Houston, they are losing some players, but they are still one of the top teams in the country. I mean, they look amazing, but Weber State has looked really good so far. They upset St. Mary's already this season. They look really good. They have some very good players, and I'm going to do it. I'm just going to say a 15 has been being a 2 every single year. I want to pick one. I'm going to go with Weber State here to get it done and move on to the round of 32. Let's go. I want to see it. Let's get it done. I really like Weber State this year. Houston, they've been making it far in March year after year under Coach Sampson. Maybe they're due to get upset. Maybe they're due to get upset, man. I don't know. I know you guys are going to say there's no way that happens, but let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. A 15's upset a 2 every single year the past few years. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Give me Weber State over Houston. Arizona versus Iowa State in our next matchup. I'm going to go with Arizona here to move on to the Sweet 16. Next up, we got Arkansas versus Michigan State. This is very well could be like a Final Four level matchup. And we're going to see it here in the second round, according to this bracketology. Now, based on what we've seen so far this season, Michigan State has not looked the best. I really like what Arkansas has to offer. These two are very defensive teams. I'm going to, Muss and Izzo have both been very reliable in March. Of course, Izzo over a longer course of time. But I'm going to go with Coach Musselman here to get it done because I am very high on Arkansas. And Michigan State has not proven that they can shoot the 3 ball good enough to win in March. So give me Arkansas to get the job done over Michigan State in this 5-over-4 matchup. I hate that I have to eliminate one of those teams so early because they're both so good. Like I said, I think that they're both probably Final Four contenders at the very least, if not national championship contenders. But I really like what this Arkansas team has. I think if all their transfers could start just working together, get that chemistry built, I think Arkansas could be a force and could be a national championship contender this season. Yale versus Gonzaga. I think this is where I'm going to have Yale's run end, and I'm going to have Gonzaga move on to the Sweet 16. We have UCLA versus Weber State, and I'm actually going to have Weber State move on to the Sweet 16. For the third year in a row, we get a 15 seed in the Sweet 16. Last year it was Princeton. The year before that it was who was it? St. Peter's. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. And the year before that it was Oral Roberts. So actually, the fourth year in a row we get Weber State. Next up, we got Arizona versus Arkansas, and again another 1 versus 5 seed. Where I really, really like the 5 seed, and at this point in time, I mean, I know Arizona has looked amazing, but I like this Arkansas team so much, and I'm gonna have another 5 seed beat a 1 seed to move on along to the Elite 8. I just really like this Arkansas team better as far as a team built for March, and I'm going to have Arkansas get it done here. And Gonzaga versus Weber State. As much as I really would like to see Weber State get the job done here and move on to the Elite 8, I don't see this one happening. I'm going to have Gonzaga move on. I mean, they just have too much size, a very good point guard around them. Mark Few, very good coach, even though he just looks like he got the most Botox done in the world. I like to see him drink through a straw. But I think Gonzaga's going to get it done over Weber State. Battle of the state of Washington in there. 2 teams out of the state of Washington. That's actually a fun storyline there. Next up, we got Arkansas versus Gonzaga. Who's going to get it done and make it to the Final Four and add that to their resume? I think this is finally the year Arkansas makes the Final Four. I'm very high on them. Not a lot of people are. The people that are, I think I've seen, what's the name, John Fana, who works for like CBS or one of those. He actually picked Arkansas as his national champion. So people are either really high on Arkansas or they're like they're Arkansas. They're probably going to pull off some upsets, make a Sweet 16, Elite Eight, do what they do, but they're not really national championship contenders. So people are really either really high on them or really not. I'm one of those people. I'm pretty high on them. I really like this Arkansas team with all the transfers that they brought in. El Ellis, Battle, Davenport. I could go on. They got so many transfers this year, but Arkansas, I feel like they're going to be built to win. This is maybe Muss's best team that he's had since he's coached Arkansas. So I am going to go with them to make the Final Four. So 2 5 seeds in the Final Four. A 5 seed has actually never won the national championship. Maybe we're going to change that right here. We had a 5 seed make the national championship game last year in San Diego State. So, but never has a 5 seed actually won it. Actually, we're guaranteed to have one in the championship game because they're both going to play each other here in our bracket. Kansas versus Iona. Iona no longer has Patino. I think Kansas is going to dominate them. But Iona does have Farley Dickerson's head coach now, so maybe that's a recipe for 16 seeds to defeat ones. I don't know. It is just having him as the head coach. But it is a better job than FDU is Iona, so he did get that promotion. Auburn versus Indiana. Very good 8-9 matchup. I really like this here, and it's going to be a battle of the bigs here. Janai Broom going up against Khalil Ware on Indiana. That's going to be a very fun matchup there, and I like Auburn in this matchup. Something's telling me. I mean, I was high on Indiana during the preseason. I like Coach Woodson. But so far from what I've seen this season, Auburn has played a very good game against Baylor even though they lost. I like Bruce Pearl as well. And Indiana, so far from what I've seen, them playing this year, haven't looked that great. I like Auburn so far, but if you guys wanted to tell me Indiana would win that matchup, I probably wouldn't argue too much against you. Kentucky versus Grand Canyon. We haven't had any 12/5s yet in this bracket. Are we going to have to change that? In fact, both of our 5 seeds have not lost at all yet so far in this bracket. Kentucky looked very good last night against Kansas. I will not deny that. Grand Canyon is going to have a very good team this year. Are they going to get as high as a 12 seed? I'm not sure. But I would love to see this upset go down. But I do really like this Kentucky team. I feel like they're meshing more than the past couple of years. Kentucky's had the past 2 years Kentucky teams, I feel like they're meshing a lot better. They're shooting definitely a lot better. So I am going to pick Kentucky here to get the job done. Next up, we got USC versus Furman. Like I said, we just saw USC lose to UC Irvine, of course, but that was without Boogie Ellis, and Bronny James has not played yet. Is he going to be playing in March Madness if they make it? I would assume so. And also Kobe Johnson was not playing for USC yesterday either, so it was basically Isaiah Collier. But I do worry about USC's depth. I'm not sure if they have the best depth this year, but I do think that Isaiah Collier, an excellent player, probably going to be the number 1, number 2 draft pick this year in the NBA. Very solid player. He looks like a stud. If they get Bronny James back on the court, Boogie Ellis, Kobe Johnson, those 4 I think are good for a win. I'm going to take USC here in this matchup. ESPN's going to be all, March Madness isn't on ESPN, but they're going to be all over all these prospects in the round of 32. Kentucky versus USC. They built this bracket to see that, for sure. Illinois versus St. John's or Boise State. I actually like Boise over St. John's, and I like Boise over Illinois. I'm high on Boise like every year, and they always disappoint me in March Madness, but they look different this year. They actually look really good so far this season. I'm going to go with the Broncos to get it done. Texas A&M versus Eastern Kentucky. I really like Texas A&M this year. Don't know too much about Eastern Kentucky, if I'm being honest with you. A lot of these mid-majors so far I have known a lot about. Eastern Kentucky, not a lot, I'll be honest. But give me A&M in that matchup. TCU versus Clemson. I really like this TCU team. They're another one of those teams that I feel like are super underrated this year. Like, yeah, they lost Mike Miles, but they brought in Jameer Nelson Jr., who I think is going to be a awesome player for them. They also got guys like Avery Anderson, Emmanuel Miller. I really like this TCU team, and I'm going to pick them over Clemson, even though I think Clemson has a very solid team this year. They've looked great so far. Give me TCU. I like them a little bit better. Creighton versus South Dakota State. South Dakota State is tricky. They're definitely a team that is capable of pulling off of an upset, but I really like this Creighton team this year. Stephen Ashworth, Ryan Cockbrenner, but mainly because of Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman. I mean, they look like an awesome team. Once again this season, they made the Elite Eight last year, are returning 3 of their 5 starters, and maybe have a little bit better depth than they did last season as well. Next up, we got Kansas versus Auburn. I'm going to go with Kansas in this one. I don't see Auburn being able to upset them. Kansas, Hunter Dickinson just put up 27 and 21 against Kentucky. He looks fantastic. Dejon Harris, one of the best, if not, he's definitely top 5, if not top 3 point guards in the country. Excellent passer, excellent shooter. Like, when he wants to shoot the 3 ball, he will make it. He's very consistent with that. And Kevin McCullough is also just an excellent defender, facilitator, driver. Just, this team is built to go far in March Madness. When Bill Self has a good post player, look out. Kentucky versus USC, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is the game. They're going to be all over this one with Isaiah Collier, Bronny James versus Rob Dillingham, DJ Wagner. They're going to be all over this one, man, and I like Kentucky. They have much better depth in this one, and I think the better rebounding and better size. If Kentucky's bigs can get healthy, I think that they're going to be dangerous, and it's actually setting up a rematch between Kansas and Kentucky, which we saw just yesterday. Boise State versus Texas A&M. That's going to be a very fun matchup here. If I'm trusting Boise to get it done, let's do it. I'm going with Boise, man. I really don't trust Texas A&M to go too far in March Madness, even though they do have really good guards. I think Boise, like I said, they just look different this year. I know I've trusted and been hurt by them in the past. I think even the past 2 years, I've been hurt by the Broncos, but I feel like they can get it done this year, and I'm going to have them all the way to the Sweet 16. Next up, we got TCU versus Creighton. Very, very fun matchup here. Seeing Jameer Nelson Jr. going up against a guy like Trey Alexander. I think Trey Alexander, one of the best defending wings in the country. I think that he is going to be a big difference maker in this one. I think that he might be Creighton's best player. I don't know, it's hard because Baylor Shireman and Ryan Cockbrenner are so good. And if Stephen Ashworth starts playing like he did at Utah State, Creighton's going to win this game, and maybe by a good margin. Give me the Blue Jays to move on. Next up, we got Kansas versus Kentucky, and we just saw this game last night. I don't think it's going to go much different. Kentucky was making a lot of their shots, and they still ended up losing in the end. And I think Kansas is the better team, and it showed, and I'm going to pick them again over Kentucky. Next up, we got Boise versus Creighton. I am going to go with Creighton here to end Boise's run. I think Creighton too good of a team to get upset by Boise, a team who's never been to the Sweet 16 before. A lot of pressure there, and Creighton, a very experienced team who has been there before and has been there just last year. So next up, we got Creighton versus Kansas. The first time we have both our 1 and our 2 seed making it to the Elite Eight out of the bracket. And I don't know who I want to go with in this matchup, man. Creighton is such a good team. Ryan Cockbrenner versus Hunter Dickinson is definitely the key matchup here. But then you also have what's probably going to be Trey Alexander guarding Dejon Harris, because I don't think they're going to put Ashworth on him. I think that would be a mistake. When you have such a good defender on the wing in Trey Alexander, you want to put him on Kansas's best guard. So I think that those are going to be the key matchups here, and I think Baylor Shireman is the difference. I think if Baylor Shireman can make his shots in this game, I think Creighton can get it done, and I'm going to pick Creighton here to win over Kansas, who at this point is the AP number 1 team in the country and the number 3 overall 1 seed in Joe Lunardi's March Madness. I'm going to go with Creighton, and so far we have 0 1 seeds in the Final Four. We have a 2 seed and 2 5 seeds. Next up, we got Tennessee going up against either Howard or Morehead State. I'm going to have Tennessee win this one here. Cool to see Tennessee as a 1 seed. I mean, I think at this point I'm fine with that. They've looked really good this season so far. Wisconsin and Oregon, not too high on either one of these teams so far, but I think I'm going to go with Oregon here to get it done. Next up, we got North Carolina versus Liberty. I'm going to go with North Carolina. Not too high on, I think, Liberty is going to be pretty solid. But Armando Bacot, man, I feel like after what's happened at North Carolina, since they went to the national championship just 2 years ago, and after what happened last year where they didn't even make the tournament, I feel like North Carolina's going to be on a mission. Let's not forget how good Armando Bacot is and how good this North Carolina team can be. I'm going to pick North Carolina here. Next up, we got FAU versus Akron. I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic here to get it done. They just beat a different MAC team in Eastern Michigan by, I think, 50 or 60 points. It was like 100-something to 50. I know Akron is a better team than Eastern Michigan for sure, but I think FAU wins this one pretty handily. Next up, we got San Diego State versus either Florida or Ohio State. I'm going to go with Florida to defeat Ohio State for sure. And I'm going to go with San Diego State here to get the job done over Florida. I think Florida is building something very good there, but I think San Diego State just, after making it to the national championship game last year, I think they're going to get it done. Next up, we got Duke versus Colgate, and I'm going to go with Duke. They're built to win this year. Like last year, they won the ACC championship tournament, and then they went on to lose to Tennessee in the second round of March Madness. But they were one of the hottest teams going into March Madness this year. They're returning a lot of their starters, Cal Filipowski, Tyrese Proctor, and they have some really good freshmen as well. Jeremy Roach returning as well, Mark Mitchell. This Duke team is built to win this year. I like them here in this matchup for sure over Colgate. Then we got Colorado versus Kansas State. And a lot of people are very high on Colorado this year. I think they're pretty good. They're going to make March Madness, but Kansas State has the experience factor here. I think that's the key difference in why I'm going to pick this 10 over 7. They have the experience. I know that Tyler Perry has not been to the NCAA tournament, but he has been to the NIT, and he actually won the NIT championship last year in North Texas. They also have Arthur Kaluma on the squad, who was in the Elite Eight last year, and Cam Carter on the squad, who was in the Elite Eight last year. They have a lot of experience. Jerome Tang going to get it done here in the first round of March Madness over Colorado. Next up, we got UConn, our defending national champions, over UNC Asheville, and I'm going to have UConn get the job done right here. Our last region, we got Tennessee versus Oregon. I'm going to pick Tennessee in this matchup. Tennessee looks really good this year. Can they break the curse? They're moving right along here to the Sweet 16 pretty easily for me. North Carolina versus FAU. This is going to be a very good matchup. Armando Bacot versus Vladdy is going to be the key matchup in this game. But FAU does have the depth that is better than North Carolina's, in my opinion. But the guard play is close with RJ Davis. It's close. It's very close for me. I am going to go with FAU here to get the job done over North Carolina, though. Next up, we got San Diego State versus Duke. And even though San Diego State made the national championship last season and was our runner-up, I am going to select Duke to get this win. A 3 over a 6. I just think that Duke has such a solid squad this year. I think Kyle Filipowski is going to go off in March Madness, and I just like this team, man. I like this team. They play hard. I'm going to have Duke go to the Sweet 16. Next up, we got Kansas State versus UConn. the past 3 years now, including last year, the defending national champion has lost in the round of 32. No one expected Kansas to lose in the round of 32 last year, but they did. And Kansas State is definitely capable of beating UConn here. But UConn just looks so good, man. Stephon Castle has looked pretty good as a freshman. You still have guys like Tristan Newton. You got big Donovan Clingan. Like, who on Kansas State is guarding Donovan Clingan? I don't know. And, man, I know it's the trend, but I'm going to have UConn get to the Sweet 16 here, our defending champions. Next up, we got Tennessee versus FAU. This is a very fun matchup. I really like what I've seen from Tennessee so far this year, man. Vescovi, Ziegler. This team looks good. Rick Barnes has himself a squad this year, and I'm going to go with Tennessee here to end FAU's run of trying to go to back-to-back Final Fours and end it there in the Sweet 16. Next up, we got Duke versus UConn. Stacked region, by the way. I mean, look at this Sweet 16. Absolutely stacked. Duke versus UConn. Very fun matchup. I do think that Duke can slow down Donovan Clingan. Donovan Clingan has also shown, in my opinion, that he is not the best free throw shooter. So maybe you kind of hack a Shaq him, hack a Donovan him, whatever you want to call it. Get him to the free throw line a little bit, but they got Mark Mitchell, they got Kyle Filipowski, you know, they got some size on this team to kind of try to deal with that a little bit, and I think that Tyrese Proctor and Jeremy Roach and these guards are going to play very well in this game as well, so I am actually going to have Duke take out the defending national champions here in this one, and I am going to have Duke move on to the Elite Eight to take on Tennessee. A rematch of the round of 32 matchup last year was a 4 versus 5. Now it's a 1 versus 3 in the Elite Eight. And I think I am going to pick the same team to get it done that did last year in Tennessee. I'm going to have Tennessee defeat Duke here in this one. I really like Tennessee's guard play. I really like their defense. Their offense finally seems to be figured out. I mean, over the past couple of years under Rick Barnes, I just feel like Tennessee's offense has been so stagnant. But this year it definitely looks better, and I'm down to see Tennessee make it all the way to the Final Four this year as our only 1 seed in the Final Four. So we got 2 5 seeds, we got a 2 seed, and we have a 1 seed. So no double-digit seeds making it to the Final Four, but that's fine. I'm sure, you know, I will find a double-digit seed that I will like as the season gets on a little bit more for our next bracket predictions. But we got 2 5 seeds. One of them's going to make it to the national championship game. And I'm telling you guys, I am a big fan of Arkansas this year. And I'm going to have Arkansas defeat Texas here and move on to the national championship game. Really like Arkansas. I just think that they're built to win this year. I think this is Muss's best team. And as good as I think Texas is this year, I think that Arkansas just has the defense, has the shooters to get it done this year, man. They have it. They have it set up to get it done this year. I'm going to have them in the national championship game. Next up, we have Creighton versus Tennessee. And I like this Creighton team. I'm going to have Creighton move on to the national championship over Tennessee. Again, I really like Trey Alexander. I think he's going to play awesome defense. Trey Alexander and Stephen Ashworth are going to play awesome against Tennessee's guards. I feel like Ryan Cockburner is going to be a force in the paint, especially defensively. And I think Baylor Shireman is the key, man. I feel like Baylor Shireman's one of those guys that if he can get hot, he can get really hot over the course of the entire tournament, and especially from 3 and deep range, and lead his team all the way to the national championship game. So now we do have Creighton versus Arkansas in our national championship 5 seed versus 2 seed. Who am I going to have come out of this one? On Arkansas side, you have so many good guards. Devo Davis, Tremont Mark, Khalif Battle, L. Ellis. Like, that guard depth, when you have 4 solid guards that can score that well, I think that, you know, it's going to be a problem in March Madness, and that's really the main reason why I like them so much. The only kind of like pushback I could take on that is like, well, none of those players I named really have too much experience other than Devo Davis, who went off last year in March Madness, and helped upset Kansas. But in really, Creighton's bigs are better, but so is Texas. So I feel like if Arkansas can get past Texas here in the Final Four, I feel like they can get past Creighton as well and win the national championship this season. Arkansas, I feel like the bigs could give them some problems. They do have a freshman center in Bayfall, who, if he can get going, then I really do like this pick a lot more. But other than that, it's going to be kind of like some undersized bigs who are going to be like Trevon Brazile, and also guys like Mekhi Mitchell. So Arkansas does have some very solid forwards. They're going to play hard down there. I really like Trevon Brazile a lot to go off in March Madness, as well as Devo Davis and Khalil Battle. Ellis, I think, is going to play really hard. I like Davenport. Like, there's so many good players. Tremont Mark. Like, the depth of this Arkansas team, and we have seen, like, last year how good UConn's depth was. That is the main reason why they won the national championship. Like, they had good shooters, good defense, good post play. That's the only thing Arkansas is missing. They have good depth, good shooters, good defense. Arkansas, under Muss, has always had good defense. The only thing they're missing is that solid post play. If they can find that somewhere, whether it's through Brazile, through Bayfall as a freshman, if they can find that somewhere, I love Arkansas as your 2024 national champion this year in March Madness. So let me know who your guys' Final Four would be out of this bracket. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Make sure you guys subscribe for more college basketball content all season long. This is definitely a place to be. I'm trying to grow it, be a #1 college basketball YouTube channel out there, and I feel like we're going to do it because we have an awesome community here. I love talking college sports with you guys. So make sure you guys subscribe, drop a like, and yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.